One of the biggest challenges for any democracy is what do you do when your country is split right down the middle? It's a huge question. And today, we're going to dig into this idea of power sharing. It's a concept that can literally be the glue that holds a nation together, or if you get it wrong, it can be the thing that rips it apart. So let's just get right to it. Is sharing power actually a good thing? I mean, a lot of people think that if you share power, you're just dividing it, right? And a divided country is a weak country. But is that really the case? We're going to see if that idea holds up. Yeah, when you look at it like this, sharing power equals dividing power, it kind of seems logical, doesn't it? But what if we've got it all backward? What if the real danger, the thing that truly weakens a nation, is the refusal to share power? We're going to look at two real-world examples, two countries that face this exact choice. And this is where our tale of two democracies begins. We're talking about two nations that looked surprisingly similar on paper, but the choices they made led to completely different outcomes. I mean, dramatically different. All right, let's meet our two countries. Belgium, right in the middle of Europe, and Sri Lanka, an island nation in South Asia. Now, you might think they're worlds apart, but they had one huge thing in common. Both were diverse democracies trying to figure out how to deal with some serious divides between their people. Okay, so let's start with Belgium. It's complicated. You've got a majority, about 59%, who speak Dutch. They're mostly in the Flemish region. Then you have a big minority, 40%, who speak French in the Wallonia region. Oh, and there's a tiny German-speaking group, too. Right away, you can see the potential for tension here. But here's where it gets really weird. The capital city, Brussels, it's like an island where everything is flipped upside down. The French speakers, who are the minority in the whole country, are actually a massive 80% majority in Brussels, and they were pretty wealthy and powerful. Suddenly, the national majority, the Dutch speakers, are the minority in their own capital. You can just imagine how tense that made things. Okay, now let's hop over to Sri Lanka. You'll see a similar pattern, but the numbers are even more stark. You have the Sinhala speakers making up a huge 74% majority. The main minority group, the Tamil speakers, are just 18%. That kind of imbalance sets the stage for a totally different kind of political power play. So you see the setup, right? Both Belgium and Sri Lanka have a clear majority group and a big minority group. In both places, things are getting tense over language, rights, you name it. And both countries are standing at a fork in the road, facing the exact same question. What is the majority going to do? First, let's look at Sri Lanka. And this story, well, it's a bit of a warning. It shows us what can happen when a country goes down the path of what's called majoritarianism. Basically, when the majority says, we're in charge and we'll do what we want. So, Sri Lanka gets its independence in 1948. Pretty quickly, the Sinhala majority starts to flex its political muscle. By 1956, they pass a law making Sinhala the only official language. The Tamil language? Ignored. Then came policies giving advantages to Sinhal students and job seekers. Step by step, the Tamil community was pushed to the side. And what happens when a group feels like they have no other options? They started demanding their own state. And this spiraled into a horrible, decades-long civil war. And that's majoritarianism in a nutshell. It's this idea that just because you have the numbers, you have the right to rule however you see fit, and you don't have to listen to the minority. As Sri Lanka shows us, that kind of thinking can be absolutely devastating. And just listen to this. It really gets to the heart of what the Tamil people were feeling. They felt the whole system was stacked against them, that they were being discriminated against, that their voices just didn't matter. When people feel that alienated, that ignored, well, that's the fuel for a fire that can burn for a very, very long time. Okay, now for a completely different story, let's go back to Belgium and see how they handled their problem. Instead of domination, they chose a path of compromise and, well, accommodation. The leaders in Belgium looked at their divided country and said, okay, this is our reality. We can't ignore it, so we have to manage it. And this wasn't easy. It took them 23 years, and they had to change their constitution 4 times to get it right. They were trying to build something complicated, yeah, but something that everyone could agree to. So what did they come up with? It was pretty genius, actually. First, in the main central government, they mandated an equal number of Dutch and French-speaking ministers. That way, one side couldn't just run over the other. Second, they gave a ton of power to the state governments, so local regions had more control.
Third, for that tricky situation in Brussels, they created a separate government with equal representation. And finally, they even made community governments that just dealt with culture and language. Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around, but the whole point was to make it fair for everyone.
And, sometimes it's the small things that show you everything. Just look at a street sign in Brussels. The name is written in both French and Dutch. It seems like a tiny detail, but it's a powerful, everyday reminder of the big idea here. Both groups are equal. Both are respected. Both belong. So, what was the end result of all this hard work, all this compromise? Well, for one, Belgium didn't have a civil war. It stayed together. And get this, Brussels, the city that could have torn the country apart, ended up becoming the headquarters of the European Union. That's a pretty strong vote of confidence in their ability to handle diversity. So, after hearing these two stories, what's the big takeaway? Why does power sharing seem to work so well? It really boils down to two key arguments. Okay, so you've got two main reasons to share power. The first is what we call prudential, which is just a fancy word for practical. It's the smart thing to do. It lowers the chance of conflict, it keeps things stable. Trying to force the majority's will on everyone, like in Sri Lanka, just ends up breaking the country apart. Then there's the moral reason. This one's about principles. It's the idea that power sharing is what democracy is all about. People have a right to have a say in how they're governed. So let's go back to that question we started with. Does sharing power make a country weak? Well, the practical argument says absolutely not. It's actually a savvy move to keep the country strong and stable in the long run. It's just good strategy. And on the other hand, the moral argument says this is about the very soul of democracy. A government is only legitimate if the people it governs have a real stake in it. It's about fairness, plain and simple. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. The stories of Belgium and Sri Lanka seem to tell us that for a diverse country to succeed, compromise is everything. But that leads to a really tough question for our world right now. What do you do when one group just refuses to share?